So today I've got this rather flattering picture of me driving. I'm going to attempt to recreate it in oil paints. And so I think it's good to do a self-portrait every year because it's a good reflection of the aging process. I'm going to paint on board, say oil paints, and I'm just going to go straight in with oils. I'm not going to sketch or anything. So let's see how we get on, shall we? So I'm going to attempt to waffle my way through this. I start off with drawing a smaller square on the shape or the canvas, or the board in this case, and then that kind of gives me my eye a boundary to work to, and then I divide that up into 4 smaller squares, and then that gives me again something for my eye to work with, so then I know that I'm not going to lose half the head outside of the box, so to speak. Always give myself a centre line if I'm working central to the canvas. Again, so I know that realistically the mapping of the final image will be where I want it to be on the canvas. This case, with this, I started off with some burnt sienna and just quite a lot of terps in there just to draw out my overall shape. Then what I've done with this is I've gone over with white just to circle the head. Again, for me it's all about shapes and seeing. I kind of call how I work the art of repairing, or when I sketch out this way, I just spend the rest of the time, once I've got lots of paint on the canvas, then I spend the rest of the time repairing it for tonal values. But what I find that if I put an outline around it, again, it gives me some structure quickly to it, so I can understand whether the actual outline of my painting is working or not. One thing to note here, if you look at the glasses, you can't really see, but the paper above it is curled up because I only had it stuck to the top of the easel. But what I realised is, as I went on and on, the canvas, the paper was curling up more and more. So what I've actually transcribed on the board, if you look at the right hand side of the face, the glasses pointing up. Now as I paint that and I go further and further, that goes higher and higher, so it kind of comes out like a bit like Dame Edna Everage. And I didn't realise this until about 3/4 of the way through, which you'll see in a little while. The colour and the background colour on this, I just literally went through my paints I've got in the studio, just painted the board. It's a household paint, I think it's a magenta B&Q paint, just to take my eye off the natural colours of the timber, really. But I've seen a lot of people paint like this, and then they leave the pink in, and it kind of shines through, which creates quite a good effect, to be honest. So here now, with any painting I do, I try and get as much paint on the canvas as possible to start off with, and then I've got my base colour. From there on, I can start to add highlights and the low tones in it. Again, constantly looking at my reference as much as possible. The more you look, the more you see, I always say. But the funny thing with this is also, the more you look, the more you can overlook sometimes. Like, as I say, with this, I didn't really understand that the glasses were incorrect until I stood back, looked at it, looked at the paper and thought, hang on a minute, it's all curled up. Am I actually drawing that? Which is, it turns out I had. Yes, I'm trying to make or add some values to this now, adding some darkness where it's required, and then some lights. I try not to go in with white at this point. I try to leave that to the end. Sometimes, I don't know really, I don't have a structure as such. I literally hit the board, start working with it in this case, and then my brain, it's hard to describe, but my brain sort of works out where I'm going wrong. For me, like, every mark is a question once I've got all the paint in place. So I've got good paint base layer. But that's the one way I always do things. I always literally try and get as much paint on the canvas first and then start working into it. It's not a trained way. I'm untrained. I just literally picked that up myself. And that's how I work when I work this way. Obviously you can work many different ways of painting, but this kind of sketching out and just going for it way, then which I really like actually, because it means that I don't really know where I'm going to end up at the end of it. But as you can see, I'm starting to make areas darker and lighter, reshaping the forehead line. There'll come a big shape and a big change in a minute. So now I'm adding some highlights into it, again, so my eye can understand what's going on from the reference really. And the more tones that you put into it, the more colour values and the lights and the darks, I feel, is what helps me make things sort of leap off the page rather than just looking one-dimensional on the page, so to speak. I have this incredible beard. Look, see, there we go. So I've just straightened out the glasses there. And now I'm reshaping my head, adding a bit more white around it so I can understand where I'm going. But it was at that point that you saw, I looked at it and was like, oh, damn it. So now, there we go, the glasses are looking straight and true now. It did make sense when I started to work back into it, because I realised the line of the forehead was out, where it met the top of the cheek and the bottom of the glasses as well. But now it's all starting to work a lot better. And then at this point, all I do is literally crack on with moving the paint around, really, adding the highlights, keeping or making some of the tones darker, and this is where the image really starts to pop off the page. Added more white around it again so I can see overall what's going on. I don't always use white, it's just how it worked for it in this case. I did feel about going back around it with magenta, but because I had oils and it was on the palette, that's just what I went for. See, there's no rhyme or reason to how I paint. I just paint and I just put it down. And there we go, just some final finishing highlights and touches really. And all this took me about an hour, I think, just over an hour start to finish, that you see there. So there we go, that's me in just over an hour. Yeah, I think it's come out all right. Did you notice the mistake at the beginning where the paper was spun around? The glasses looked like they were curling up on the right hand side of the face. So I looked a bit Dame Edna Everage, so I've corrected that halfway through. But yeah, that's me in oils on board. That's my palette. Quite, well, you can't really see from that, but literally I don't pre-mix everything. I can mix as I go along and then find a space for the paint. I hope you enjoyed that. Yeah, me.